Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am back finally into December after a few months of 60 nights of fright that turned into 90 nights of fright. I hope you guys enjoyed what I've been doing with that for what was it, 3 months? Because I started that in September, went through all through October, of course, and then all into November. It didn't end exactly how I wanted it to end, but uh, still, it was a lot of fun grinding through that and with the episodes that I put out and everything. Just hope that everyone enjoyed it as much as I did. So now, finally starting off in December, a little later than planned and everything, but here I am. I originally was going to do something else for December, but at the last moment, I decided to pivot to something else, and it's going to coincide with what I end the year with. So that's the kind of the reason why I decided to pivot to the movies that I decided to do for the end of the year. And as I go through these episodes, getting to that last episode of the year, I think you guys will understand why I made the pivot and the switch to lead into the final episode of the year. So, um, this is pretty much going to be, I'm kind of dubbing this month like some of my favorite films of the year. Not the best, not all time best, and this, that, and the thing, and everything, but it's just some of my favorites of the year that I saw for the first time this year, that are new movies that came out in 2025, and everything. So yeah, that. And just to let you guys know what I will be doing for the month of December. Of course, I'm starting off with this movie, one battle after another. Then I'll be doing Weapons. Then I'll be doing Superman. And I will end it with Sinners. Yeah, I waited all of this time to finally get around to doing Sinners. And that was kind of planned. I was always going to do Sinners in December. And everything. Now, the other couple of movies, that was not always the original plan, but like I said, because I decided to do favorite films of the year, that's why I kind of put those movies in there and everything. So yeah, like I said, not the best films, just my personal favorites of the year. Some of my favorites of the year. They're not all my favorites of the year. Just some of them, just a few. And there's only so much that I can do in the month of December. And everything, especially circling around the Christmas Avengers, which ties into this movie. For anyone who's seen the movie, you know why I say that. And everything. And if you notice, all these movies are a little different. Um, for a different reason. They evoke the different emotions, the different hype surrounding each one of these films, and all of them are very creative in very different ways. Um, and everything. I mean, we have some action, some drama, got some genre, thriller vibes in it. Of course, Superman is a big superhero spectacle that it is, and I will talk a lot about that when I do that episode. And then, of course, I mean, Sinners with everything under the sun, which ironically I think Sinners is the one of these movies that has a mix of everything to it, to a degree. So that's kind of one reason why I am ending the year as far as movie reviews with that particular movie, and I will talk a lot about that movie when I do that movie. So for everyone who's listening to this episode, of the movies that I mentioned, and even some that I didn't mention, because I know everyone has their different preferences when it comes to what they consider their favorites or even their best of the year. But I want to hear from you guys and let me know what movie hit the hardest for you this year. Is it any of the ones that I mentioned? Is it some that I haven't mentioned and everything? And if it is, or whatever, especially if you're listening on YouTube, comment down below. Let me know what you think. You can hit me up on all my socials, of course, whether I'm on Threads, which I primarily am on. I might actually put up a post regarding this episode, or not just this episode, but just regarding that particular topic, like what movie hit the hardest for you this year. Like I said, I'd love to know what other people think, when it comes to that and everything. So let's get into talking about the main focus of this episode, and I'm talking about One Battle After Another, which came out earlier this year. Came out in September, I believe. I actually went to the movie theater and saw this, and I will say this: what pulled me into seeing this movie. One, I am a Paul Thomas Anderson fan. I've seen pretty much almost all of his movies, I want to say. Let's look through his filmography real quick, um, and just see what all of his movies have I seen, um, and everything. So let's go all the way back to the beginning. Not the beginning of time, but just the beginning of Mr. Paul Thomas Anderson's directing career. So I have not seen his two shorts. I have not seen the Dirk Diggler story, and I did not see Cigarettes and Coffee, the two shorts that he did back in 1988 and then 1993. But as far as movies go, I have seen and I do own Hard 8. I have seen and I do own Boogie Nights. I have seen and I should own Magnolia. I have seen Punch Drunk Love. I have seen, and I think I own There Will Be Blood. I have to look again. I can't remember if I own it or not. I have seen and I do own The Master. I went to the movie theater to see, and I don't own it, even though I should own Inherent Vice. I have not seen Phantom Thread. I haven't seen Licorice Pizza yet, but that is something I do want to see. So, yeah, I've pretty much seen almost all of his movies, except for what, two? Yeah, I haven't seen Phantom Thread and Licorice Pizza. So I've seen all of his movies except for two of his films so far, which is interesting. And I own quite a bit of them also, which is kind of cool, and everything. I mean, he's always been a favorite director of mine. I just always kind of liked his style of filmmaking and stuff like that. And I know, like, when I was younger, like when I was a kid, for some reason I used to get him and Wes Anderson confused for some reason. Maybe because it's the Anderson, and everything. And then let's not even mention Paul W.S. Anderson, because, like, what the hell? It's like, wait a minute, are they brothers? Like, what is this? And everything. But I don't believe any of them are related to each other. But they all Anderson. Then, like I say, Paul Thomas Anderson, Paul W.S. Anderson. It's like, what the hell? Like, right, the damn it's almost like freaking wrestling with Arn Anderson and Gene Anderson, Ole Anderson, C.W. Anderson, like all these damn Andersons. Like, what the hell is this? And everything. But yeah, like I said, I think he has a unique style of filmmaking. And he's very, I want to say he's very tuned into, like, the movie that he makes, I think adds to how he decides to direct it. Because if you watch Hard 8 and then you watch Boogie Nights, as far as the style of directing that he does in those films, it's completely different. And then same thing with Magnolia. It's like whatever story he's telling, the way he frames a scene and everything like that, how the camera moves and stuff like that. They're very different, but I feel like it is particular to the film that he's making. Because certain filmmakers, like, they have a particular style and they stick to that style no matter the movie that they're making. And everything. But one thing I know about Paul Thomas Anderson is that the way he moves a camera is completely different from movie to movie. It's not always the same. And I mean, that's for people who pay attention to stuff like that, and everything. It stands out, or whatever. But like with this movie, One, like, the things that pulled me into this movie, one was the cast. The fact that you have Leonardo DiCaprio, Benicio del Toro, Sean Penn, Regina Hall, that's a part of this cast, and then you have Tatiana Taylor and newcomer Chase Infinity, which I'll talk more about those particular characters and actresses later on. But as far as the names that he has attached to this movie, granted, he's always had great cast a part of his films. Going all the way back to even Hard Eight, the fact that you had John C. Reilly, Philip Baker Hall, Samuel L. Jackson, and then Philip Seymour Hoffman as just a arrogant some bitch at doggone craps table, just laughing and talking crap or whatever. And then of course with Boogie Nights, the cast in that is insane. Burt Reynolds, Mark Wahlberg, Don Cheadle, John C. Reilly again. And then like even some of the lesser characters, I always say Don Cheadle, but some of the lesser characters like Luis Guzman and you have Alfred Molina in that damn house scene, which is just insanity. And everything. Thomas Jane in one of his earlier roles. And everything. Like people just showing up in that movie. Like I say, it's dope also. Philip Baker Hall shows up in that, and one of my favorite scenes of that movie, just the back and forth with him and Burt Reynolds, VHS is the future, video, film is dead. VHS, that's the future. That's the way of the future. And it kind of makes you wonder, like, is that how it kind of went down when somebody like these executives was talking about like what was the next new thing that's coming? It's like, did someone come in and say, well, streaming is the way of the future? I'm just letting you know, like, physical media, is dead. Streaming, that's where it's at. That's what you need to get involved with. And look at where we at now. It's like, and ironically, I'm one of the people kind of in the Burt Reynolds chair where it's like I'm clinging on to physical media because we need to keep physical media, because without physical media, you will lose a lot of stuff. I mean, think about all the different transfers throughout the times from VHS to current. There's a lot of stuff that got lost in the transfers. Like there's certain stuff that you can't find on DVD because it never got transferred from VHS. There's a lot of like movies from from back in the day, like the 80s and even 90s, that did not get transferred over to to DVD. So it's just lost in time unless you somebody who owns a VHS player and you still playing videotapes or whatever. But other than that, you're not gonna find it on DVD. I mean, and then look at Laserdisc. It came and went, very quick, because DVD and then Blu-ray just kind of said, screw you, Laserdisc, or whatever. And everything. And it's kind of similar, going back to the cast, that's kind of similar to what we get here, where yes, you have the big names like Leonardo DiCaprio, Sean Penn, Benicio del Toro, Regina Hall, Tatiana Taylor, Tiana Taylor. Why do I keep calling Tatiana? I don't know why I'm thinking about Tatiana Ali for some reason. I don't know. But Tiana Taylor, I'm sorry. But then you have like Wood Harris, who, for people who know who Wood Harris is, like if you've seen The Wire and other things like that, you know who Wood Harris is. So it was dope seeing him show up in this movie at the beginning. It was like, yeah, I would have liked to see more of his character, but it was just cool still seeing him show up in this movie. And then a couple of actresses that show up later on in the movie. Starletta DuBois. I mean, if you are someone who know who she is, when she shows up in the movie, it's like, wow, okay, she's in this. Like, okay, that's cool. Again, a small part, but if you know who that actress is, it's cool to see her show up. April Gray shows up later in the movie as well, like towards the end, playing the lead nun and everything. If you know who that actress is, it's cool to see her show up in this movie. So I always kind of make this joke regarding One Battle After Another that this is Paul Thomas Anderson's blackest movie and everything, because of the actresses that he has show up in this movie. I mean, Tiana Taylor, Regina Hall, Starletta DuBois, April Grace showing up in here, and it's like, yeah, this is a black ass movie. The actress that plays Jungle Pussy, like this is a black freaking movie. Wood Harris, this is a black movie. All right. Um, and everything. But I always make that joke of that this is his blackest movie and everything like that. Which I mean, it's a joke, but I'm kind of serious at the same time when I say that. Uh, so let's talk about some of the standout scenes and performances of this movie. Uh, for me personally, some of my favorite standout scenes is a few of them involves Leonardo DiCaprio, because if you've seen the movie, you know that I want to say for like 85% of this movie, he's running around in that damn robe. And the robe in itself is almost like a character if you pay attention. But also too, there is I kind of made a connection with the color pattern of that robe regarding another character in the movie. And I don't know, I felt like there was a symbolism there. I'm not sure if that was the intended case, but I kind of just put that together myself just from watching the movie a few times. But yeah, he's running around in that robe for most of the movie. But I mean, of course, one of the moments in the movie is him sitting on the couch once he realized that Colonel Stephen J. Lockjaw is coming for him, and he kind of has like a like a out of body moment where it's like, okay, Bob, like don't panic. And then he takes a puff of the like little joint that he's smoking and everything, and just him talking to himself. One thing about Leonardo DiCaprio, which has become funny in his later career, is the self monologues that he has. I mean, of course, the crash out moment in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in the trailer is like one of his best like scenes in a movie. But this one is funny too, because it's not that he's so much crashing out, it's that he's it's like he's trying to talk himself into actually moving, because it's like for some reason he's like he wanted to freeze, but it's like he had to talk himself out of that and everything. And then of course the telephone, him on the phone with the dude trying to get the coordinates, because he don't know what time it is and everything. Cause talking that code speak, in which he is self-admittedly like, I don't remember none of this code speak. Like, I don't remember. But then it's like as the movie goes along, it's like he starts to remember quite a bit of it. But as far as the time, he could not remember that to save his life, and everything. For me, another moment with him is there's a scene where he's running on the roof, and I always laugh because I remember seeing that at the movie theater, and I always laugh at the fact that how the hell does he fall off the roof? And I didn't really notice it the first time when I saw it at the theater. I didn't notice it, but when I watched it for the second time for this episode, and everything, instead of him running and jumping to the roof, somehow he jumps into the damn tree, and that's why he falls like damn near 50 feet. And it basically, how he didn't murder himself, I don't know, but he survived, and he ended up getting tasered and everything like that. But I mean, there's a lot of moments with him that I could go through and just talk about just from his standpoint, his acting in this, which I think he will be nominated for Best Actor for an Oscar. I mean, he did get a nomination for a Golden Globe for this, so I'm pretty sure he's going to get nominated for Best Actor for this. Also, Sean Penn in this movie. This might be one. It might be one of his most unhinged roles of his career, and Sean Penn has played unhinged before in movies, but this might be his most unhinged. And a lot of the character choices, I'm not sure how much of that was in the script or how much of that like Sean Penn came up with himself. And if he came up with what I think he might have come up with, which is like the hair and a lot of choices that he makes with like the combing of the hair, making sure his hair looks good, even though his hair look like crap. His hair look crazy. his hair is very distracting. And it's not distracted in a good way. It's distracted because it's like, what the hell is that piece of crap on your head? And why are you trying to comb over and got it looking? And it's like, what the hell? Just shave that mess off, man. But the voice that he uses for this, because he doesn't sound exactly like Sean Penn. And I know people have made connection to him sounding like a certain person that is a part of politics, and I'm not gonna say that person name because I don't want that even a part of my podcast. But if you know who he kind of sounds like, and it's like, okay, was that Sean Penn's choice to make Stephen Lockjaw sound like that person? If it is, kudos to him, because I think we kind of forget that Sean Penn is a very good actor. The man is a 2-time Oscar winner, and he's been in a lot of really good movies over the year, and he has no problem being a character in a movie. Like one of my favorite performances of his in his career is that of Kleinfeld in Carlito's Way. That's like one of my favorites of him, and it's one of the most un-Sean Penn looking characters because he doesn't look like Sean Penn. If you tell somebody who's never really seen Sean Penn in a movie, be like, oh yeah, that's Sean Penn. Like, huh? That's him? Who? Like, all right, I guess. But no, that's like one of my favorites. But even in this, you're not supposed to like his character, but if you enjoy his acting and you enjoy what he does with the character, because you supposed to hate the character, rightfully so. But and from an acting standpoint, it's like he does a damn good job in this, and it wouldn't surprise me if he doesn't get a nomination for Best Supporting Actor here in a few months for the Oscars or whatever, and everything. But and then of course Benicio del Toro. I mean, probably the most chillest dude in this entire movie. He's like the only one that doesn't have like a nervous breakdown. Basically, he's just kind of going through. He's the portion of the movie with him. He's trying to help Bob, and everything, but also he's dealing with his own little mini revolution thing. And like he says in the movie, we got a Harriet Tubman situation at my place, and we're gonna go handle this. And you would think, okay, let me. It's time. He doesn't panic at all, even though he's like a karate sensei, because that's what he gets called most of the movie anyway. It's sensei. So he's very zen. He's very chill, but then he kind of loosens up quite a bit because he's drinking and everything, because he has a few small beers, right? And the whole thing is like this is the end of the line, but not for you. It's like you gotta have no fear, just like Tom effing Cruise. And it's like, what? And I wonder what Tom Cruise thought about that if he saw the movie. Like, what did he think about that shout out about having no fear? Because it's not a lie. Tom Cruise has no fear. If you've seen the last Mission Impossible, the man really has no fear with the stunt that he does in that, and everything. But but Benicio is like one of the most chillest dudes in this, and probably the most chill dude in the movie, and everything. Now let's talk about a few of the actresses. First, let's talk about Tiana Taylor. Tiana, not Tatiana. Tiana Taylor. Who this is, I think, for a lot of people who's not too familiar with her, this was their introduction into her. And I know there has been a lot of talk regarding her character, and I can kind of understand where some people are coming from, where they felt that it's a negative portrayal of a black woman and how she is overly sexualized, and I can kind of see it to a degree. I don't fully agree with it, but I can see why some people feel that way, and everything. But as far as her acting and everything in this movie, I think she does a good job with the character that she's given. And the first half of the movie is like her movie and everything. Granted, she's not in the movie a lot, but the first half of the movie is in a way a lot of her movie, and a lot of the choices that she makes in particular leads to what happens in the end of the movie, really. And in particular, what happens to one specific character is the result of what she does early in the movie. Um, and everything. Well, I would say two characters, but primarily what happens to Lockjaw at the end of the movie is a direct result of what she does to him early in the movie. Well, I should say do to him, she does with him, I should say. And like I said, I'm trying to be as spoiler free as possible for anyone who hasn't seen the movie. And if you do plan on seeing the movie, because I know some people, they don't see movies a lot of times when they first come out. They wait until they either get to digital or Blu-ray, or even in certain cases when movies get nominated is when, oh, let me check this out because it's getting all this attention, it's getting this praise and hype and everything. Let me check it out to see what it's about and everything. So anyone who's listening who hasn't seen that, that's why I'm kind of being spoiler free for the most part with how I talk about this. But I think Tiana does a very good job in the role that she has in this movie. And I mean, the fact that you working with, again, somebody like Paul Thomas Anderson, and then the next big movie that she's going to be in is a movie with Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, is like, yeah, I think she's becoming a serious actress. If you want to go that route or whatever. Not saying that she wasn't a serious actress before. I just think that she's now, in a way, is leveling up as far as notoriety wise, because now she's getting nominated for big awards. So she's kind of leveling up when it comes to that. And everything. Another actress that I want to talk about, and I think one that for some reason is surprising people. It's not a surprise to me or anyone who's followed her career. And I'm talking about Regina Hall, where I kind of wish she was in the movie a little bit more, but I do appreciate what she does in this movie because it feels like she's like the only one who fully understands everything that's going on. That's what it feels like. And after this second watch of the movie, I don't know. I'm kind of thinking, it's like, was her and one character, were they related? Because the fact that, like, some of the choices that she makes in the movie is like, well, is she doing that because, I mean, I get it, she's doing it because she's part of the, French 75, she's in everything, but at the same time, why is she doing that one particular thing? Why was she the one to go and get this person? Because is it possible that they were related and everything? I don't know. But even though Regina Hall doesn't have a lot of lines in the movie, but she does a lot of acting with her face and her eyes. It's like she says a lot without even saying a lot. And I think a lot of people is like, again, she's another, it's like, oh, well, I'm surprised that she could, put on a performance like this. And it's like, well, if all you've ever seen of her is her in the scary movies and everything, you're missing out on her entire career outside of that. I mean, Girls Trip, the character she plays in that, or Honk for Jesus, the movie that she did with Sterling K. Brown and everything. Like, you're missing out on really dope performances of her. So I would say if you haven't seen anything outside of her doing like just the quote unquote slapstick comedy stuff, I would recommend checking out some of her other stuff to see what she, just to see what type of actress she really is, because she's really great and everything. And the last person that I'm going to talk about is Chase Infinity, who is making her film debut here, and she stands toe to toe with some of the big names here. I mean, she has like a small scene with Benicio del Toro early in the movie, and everything, but the fact that she holds her own with Leonardo DiCaprio when she going back and forth with him early in the movie, or the scenes that she has with Sean Penn, it's like she's she is a very good actress, and similar to how I feel about Miles Canton from Sinners, I think that she's gonna have a hopefully she has a very good career after this and continuously, is working with really good people and everything because she's very good in this movie. And yeah, I mean, it's great to see young talent, like especially in their first movie, and it's like a major movie, and their part is central to a lot of what's going on. And just the fact that here you are going toe to toe with considered like giants of the industry, and you fitting right in with them and everything. And I'm pretty sure she learned a lot from working with Sean Penn, Benicio del Toro, and Sean and and everything. She learned a lot, and plus Paul Thomas Anderson too. I'm pretty sure she's learned a lot working with them. So yeah, I'm just impressed with what she done, especially being only 25 years old. Like, this is your first movie, and like I said, this is who you paired up with and everything. So let's talk about why this movie is one of my favorites of the year. One, if you saw the initial trailer, you probably thought it was going to be like this straightforward thing, about this guy with his daughter, and they pretty much are on the run because of the events of what happened with the guy and his girl at the time when they were younger, and it was part of a revolution and everything. And then years later, it kind of comes back to bite him in the butt, basically, right? That's what it seems like, on the surface and everything. But when you see the movie and you realize, like, no, there's a lot more going on to it. And then also the social commentary that's all throughout this movie. I mean, this movie came out like around the time when the whole thing about the immigration and the detention, centers were a hot topic. It was all over the news. It was things that was being talked about a lot. This movie comes out around that time. So to see scenes of them walking through these, detention centers and everything, or the fact that French 75, what they doing at the beginning of the movie is freeing people from these detention centers. That right in your, it's like, oh, okay, I see what Paul Thomas Anderson is doing here. And like I said, there's a lot of social commentary in this movie. Some of it is very much relating to events that occurred earlier this year, and it still is happening right now. But there's also other stuff, the underlining things regarding Lockjaw and him wanting to be a part of the Christmas Avengers so bad, and the limps that he would go through, just to be a part of that club, that superior club. And Tony Goldwyn, I forgot to mention him. Tony Goldwyn in this is, I mean, if you are a fan of the TV series Scandal, you really gonna hate him in this because of the role that he plays, and everything. But he's still very good because he's a very good actor also. And I think if this movie would have came out probably 10, 15 years ago, hell, he could have been Stephen J. Lockjaw, or whatever. But yeah, it just, there's a lot regarding this movie. And then, like I say, with the different networks and things like that, as far as like the code speak and all that. And I mean, me personally, I don't know if I wouldn't memorize half of that stuff. I know I wouldn't. I would definitely be like Bob, having a crash out moment on the telephone because I can't remember no more of this code speak. But yeah, it just, there's a lot that's happening with this movie, and I was very impressed from that aspect of this movie. And that is kind of one of the reasons why it is one of my favorites, because I went into the movie expecting one thing, and I came out, I got what I was expecting, but I also got more out of it. And I always enjoy seeing a movie for the first time and getting more than what I expected out of it, and everything. So let's talk about some of my top 3 scenes in the movie. And again, I'm trying to be very spoiler free when I talk about these scenes. So number 3 would probably be um the scene with Lockjaw where he's having his meeting with Tony Goldwyn character, because I always forget what his character's name is, but I always remember the other guy, Sandy, because that's what Lockjaw, he says, how you doing, Sandy? And everything like that. But where they're talking, and it's basically like them interviewing him for possible induction into the Christmas Avengers Club, right? So, and they're asking like, well, is there anything from your past that we should know about? Anything regarding your character? He's like, well, what might be regarding my character? And type of thing. And then it's like, any debt she might have, and then he goes into this whole thing about him, about this jet ski where he didn't pay it off and everything like that. And they just look at him like, oh, like, okay. Oh, and everything. It just, the way Sean Penn carries himself in that, which is, like I said, it's kind of funny and whatever, but it's one of his standout scenes. Granted, he has a few standout scenes in the movie, but that one is just kind of like, yeah, that tells you what type of person that he really is, especially knowing what we know about him and the fact that he's sitting there and lying to people's face. But that's another one, which he does again later in the movie. I'll put that number 3. Number 2 is probably the scene where, like I say, that whole sequence, I want you boil it down to one scene, but I would say the whole sequence of Bob, from the point that he shows up to Sensei's place to where they go, and he's pretty much trying to get his people situated, but also trying to help Bob at the same time. And I would say from the point that Bob shows up at Sensei's dojo to where he falls off the roof, that whole sequence, I think, is probably some of the best, because it's like controlled chaos that's going on through all of that. It's all controlled chaos. And one thing I like about it is that the camera never stops really moving, because there's so much going on, but it's like you pay attention, you're seeing everything as it's happening, and you're very aware of everything that's happening, and everything. And then number 1, and I think this might be a lot of people who have seen the movie, they're like, at least one of their top scenes is probably that car chase towards the end. Like, that is just dope. It kind of reminded me like of old school car chases. And for anyone who knows me, anything, know that I love movie car chases, and the fact that you don't have the music, drowning out the sounds of the cars, so you get a lot of that, and everything. So yeah, those would probably be like my top 3 of the movie, and everything. So, like I said, I wasn't going to get on here and really talk too much about the movie, because I want people, if you haven't seen the movie, to definitely check it out. Plus, this is me kind of slow rolling my way back into, getting into episodes, because even though I had episodes releasing at the end of at the end of November, but those were not really newer episodes. That's why I kind of did like an intro outro for them, but those were like old episodes, because I haven't actually myself recorded a movie talk episode since the beginning of November, basically. So yeah, I feel a little rusty, but I wanted to use this to kind of ease my way back into it, because got to be consistent. When you lose that consistency, even if it's for a few weeks, you kind of feel a little rusty. And me, I feel a little rusty. So bear with me, and everything. So that's pretty much it of me talking a little bit about one battle after another. I will talk more about it at a later date, and everything. But yeah, I just want to talk a little bit about it, give a little bit of my thoughts and opinions about certain things regarding the movie and everything. But before I get out of here, just to give a little teaser about the upcoming episodes, because the next episode, episode 361, will be me talking about weapons. And I know that movie has a lot of controversy around it, because of people trying to pit it against another movie from earlier this year, Sinners, and the hype surrounding it because of that particular thing. But I enjoy the movie for what it is. me personally, I don't care. I'm not trying to pit it against another movie because I enjoy I enjoy both movies. Granted, I do view one movie as the movie of the year, just like I put this movie as a movie of the year, and everything. I actually look at these movies, the two movies that I review. I look at as the two movies of the year. I look at it as 1 and 1A, and this movie is 1A. I will talk about which one of the movies I consider to be number one, but that'll be at a later date, um, and everything. But Weapons, I enjoyed it. Again, I went into it expecting one thing and I got something else. And once I realized what that something else was, I rolled with it. I didn't, let it take me out of the movie and ruin the rest of the movie. I understood from that standpoint, especially what I feel is uh, the crust of the movie. And I'll talk about it in the next episode when I talk more about the movie. And once I make that realization, it's like, okay, this, if you look at it from that standpoint, you understand why the movie plays the way it plays because of a certain theory that I have. But yeah, I mean, the movie is a very interesting movie. And it is kind of scary at certain points. And there are some references to, I feel like there's some references to freaking It, Pennywise the Clown, especially a few scenes in the movie kind of reminds me of that. But that's a whole nother story, which I will talk a little bit more about as I talk about Weapons and everything. But I enjoyed the performances. Josh Brolin, I think, does a good job in this movie, and everything. The actress who Julie Garner, I think she's very good in this as well. Also, I mean, like I said, it's a fun movie. It's a little chaotic, but it's a good freaking movie. And of course, Gladys, Amy Madigan as Gladys is just wow. That is a character that, like I said, I will talk more in depth about, but I enjoy it, and everything. Superman. I went into the movie expecting, well, I should say I was expecting one thing. I think you know what you're getting when you get a James Gunn movie. You are getting a spectacle with his movies, especially if you watch like the Guardians of the Galaxy, and things like that. You know what you're getting with a James Gunn movie, and everything. Granted, I was a little surprised that all of the stuff that was put into that and the tone of the movie is very interesting and different from a lot of the Superman movies, not just the one with Henry Cavill's performance, but even going back to Christopher Reeve, there's a lot. And then the fact that he pulls a lot of the comic stuff and you have everything that's going on and the characters that show up throughout this movie. And it's like, wow. And like, he actually put all of that into this movie. Like, I can't believe it. And then of course Sinners. I mean, you get your horror, you get your thriller, you got crime stuff that's going on, racism, because you got the freaking Klan that's even a part of this or whatever. All right, and it gets exactly what they deserve, and everything. But I mean, again, a dope cast, great performances. I mean, Michael B. Jordan, Wemi Masaku, Haley Steinfeld, Delroy Lindo as Delta Slim. I mean, I don't want to spoil like me just gushing over the movie now. I want to wait to actually me spending time talking about the movie in that episode. But yeah, I'm gonna have a lot of fun talking about that movie. I'm gonna have a lot of fun talking about all these movies, but I'm gonna have a lot of fun talking about that movie and revisiting that movie because I held off. Like I say, not only reviewing the movie, but even rewatching it because I wanted to wait. I wanted some time to go by. And when I say time, I mean months to go by before I revisit it, just because of the fact I did see it twice at the movie theater, and everything. But I wanted to wait and, like I said, savor a lot of the memory that I have and then go back and revisit it to see if what I'm remembering is 100% accurate, and then what I might have missed also, because I like going back and watching a movie and seeing things that I might have missed, watching the movie, even though I saw it twice. But sometimes you miss things and you see things in a different way when you go back and revisit it, months or even years later, and everything like that. So yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to. Well, that's what you can look forward to on the podcast this month in December. And I will say this, there is a difference between favorite and best. There is a difference. Now, what is the difference? That all is up for interpretation. A favorite can be something that you like a lot, but the best, it is the best. It's the best of the best, sir. With honors. Right? Good old Men in Black reference. But yeah. So, like I say, these are some of my favorites, and a few of them are my best of the year, um, and everything. But you know, watching each one of these movies and talking about these movies and everything is all about a personal time. And it's interesting. I can kind of somewhat relate to One Battle After Another in a certain way. And then I relate to Weapons in a certain way. I relate to Superman in a certain way. And I relate to Sinners in a certain way. All because of how each one of the movies touch me personally. And I always say that, when you watch a movie, how you look at a movie is based off of your personal feelings or what you might even be going through at a certain time in your life when you watch a certain movie, how you might react to it one way. And then you can watch it at a different time. It could be months later, it could be years later. And depending on how you're feeling, again, personally, how you might interpret the movie. And, I always say, like, don't always go by what other people say when it comes to watching a movie or even a TV show. Judge it based off how you feel. Like, how does it make you feel when you're watching it? Always judge it off of that. Don't forget about what other people say. Whether people hyping a movie up or if they even trashing a movie. Don't go by what other people say. How does it make you feel when you watch? It's the same thing with music. How does it make you feel when you listen to a song? Does it make you happy? Does it make you sad? Does it lift you up? Do it bring you down? You go through different range of emotions when you hear certain music. Same thing with movies. You go through different range of emotions when you watching a certain type of a movie. And that's one reason why I picked these 4 movies that I want to talk about, because they all kind of elicit different emotional reactions and different emotional beats from people within the movie itself, and also personally. Like, think about what were you going through when you watch One Battle After Another that made you react to the movie the way you might react to it. What makes you like it? What makes you dislike it? What makes you like certain characters? What makes you dislike certain characters? What makes you think certain characters are overtly sexualized? Or what makes you think about, that character reminds me of someone in real life and everything. So, yeah, like I say, just look at movies from your own personal standpoint. Don't go by what other people say. Don't listen what them people say. Anyway, I'm getting kind of too hyped now talking about this, and everything. And then, like I say, these movies, they all have different hype and impact and on everybody and everything. That's one thing I did like about these particular movies. They all had their own type of hype. And to quote Public Enemy, sometimes don't believe the hype, and in certain cases do believe the hype. But again, it's all about how you interpret it. If a movie is too hyped up, a lot of times that could be not such a good thing, because you go into it with the expectation of it being this, and then when you see it, it doesn't live up to your expectation or even what other people expectation of it was. So I would say that don't watch a movie don't go into a movie for the first time with that. Like, that's why we try to stay away from watching too many of the trailers or even listening to what people saying about the movies when they're first coming out, because I don't want it to ruin my experience of the movie. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And like I said, next episode 361, is going to be me talking more in depth about the movie Weapons. That was supposed to be a movie that I was going to cover in October. It was going to originally be a part of 60 Nights of Fright, but I took it out because I guess I decided I wanted to save it for December or whatever, and everything. So what I would like to know from you guys, the listeners, what's one movie this year you call a favorite no matter what the critics say? I mean, if you feel that Tron Ares is, a movie of the year, just say that. Or if you feel that The Smashing Machine was a movie of the year, despite what critics or people might say about it. I'd love to know what you guys think about it. So like I say, hit me up on socials. Of course, like I say, if you're listening on YouTube, comment down below what you consider a movie of the year, no matter what, and everything. Of course, you can find me all over socials, whether it's on Threads at the J Giles, over on Instagram at JMT Podcast, all my JMT Podcast, and everything like that. And of course, you can find the TV Zone Podcast Network, find J Movie Talk like that. Comment on the episodes like that also. You can comment over on Spotify now on episodes and things like that. So like I say, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, wherever you listen to your podcast at, just type in TV Zone Podcast Network. You find all the Movie Talk episodes, a part of TV Zone Podcast Network, along with the other podcast that's over there, the Grand Slam Podcast, which new episode will be dropping here this week. 3 and Out Podcast, hosted by Chris, Moneymaker Chris, that is, and everything. And of course, the For Frodo Podcast, which they haven't done an episode in a little while. They should be gearing up for award season, so it would be nice to hear from them here soon and everything. But and then of course, like I say, all the Movie Talk episodes is a part of the network as well, but also over on YouTube and everything, because I am pushing the YouTube. Just type in J Movie Talk, you find the YouTube. Follow, like I say, comment what you feel about certain episodes and things like that and everything. We'd definitely love the support over there and everything. So that is all for this episode. I want to thank everyone for listening and me getting back into podcasting, shape or whatever, because consistency, that is the word of December, consistency. So until next time, peace.